Hello and welcome to this reading on what the new moon is creating for you with the Sagittarius energy. I won't spend too much time here since I explained all about the spread within each reading itself. So whenever you're ready, the timestamps are down below. I'll see you at your reading. Hello, Pile 1. Welcome to this reading on the Sagittarius new moon and what opportunity this new moon is creating for you. We have the Ace of Wands, the Knight of Cups reversed. So we have in each of these cards up top is kind of explaining the position for each of the tarot cards. So Sagittarius energy is kind of I'm interpreting here as what opportunity this new moon in its Sagittarius energy is creating for you. The opportunity that this new moon in Sagittarius is creating for you. So the Sagittarius energy. The new moon here I'm interpreting as what you can do right now to take advantage of this opportunity being created. The first quarter at the middle is what a commitment to this energy is going to look like in order to see it blossom into this full moon energy. And with the last quarter, the last card, I'm looking at what kind of comes after, either what this energy is going to like renew into or what's going to result from all of this. It kind of differs on the context of each reading. With yours, we have, as I was saying, the Ace of Wands, the Knight of Cups reversed, the Wheel of Fortune, the Ace of Cups reversed, and the Two of Swords reversed. And immediately what jumped out was that we have two aces and the Wheel of Fortune. And why the Wheel of Fortune is significant is because in numerology, we reduce any multiple digit number into a single digit. So since the Wheel of Fortune is a 10, we take the two digits 1 and 0, we add those to reduce them to one number, and we get 1. So the Wheel of Fortune reduces to 1 in numerology, so we have 1, 1, and 1. So a new beginning, and that is what new moons are all about. So what this tells me, that we're doing a reading about new opportunities and how to take advantage of them, and that the reading itself is saying that it's giving this energy of new beginnings. It's not just that you're ready for a new beginning, and it's not just that you have everything you need in order to get this new beginning started. It's also that divinity is ready to guide you through this process. Divinity is ready to co-create with you. The Ace of Wands, and wands are fire energy. So Sagittarius, fire, it's a fire sign, and we have the Ace of Wands, fire energy. There's something right now that is exciting to you, and it's something that you either started already or something that you see it, you feel it. And if it's not something specific, it's something you're looking for. You're looking for something to excite you. And that's what the new moon is all about. Seeking and pursuing what it is that excites you, especially if it is a departure from what you are comfortable in. Whether that comfortable thing that you're in is a situation or like a lifelong habit or a lifelong situation, whatever it is, there's something about a departure, because aces are new beginnings and wands are about passion. So it's something exciting. And when it's something exciting, it feels in this context like the Ace of Wands feels like the spark to something. So it's like taking something from a stagnant energy to a now very lively and active energy. What you can do right now in this, like, just as of this moment, in order to get this energy started, to see it blossom into something, the Knight of Cups reversed. And that to me in this context feels like, I'm saying that word a lot, I don't know why context. Anyways, the Knight of Cups reversed feels to me like a self-control in terms of whatever it is that you do to soothe your feelings or soothe yourself emotionally. A call for self-control, because the overindulgence of this thing that you're doing to soothe yourself emotionally is actively what is dousing this fire, and it's preventing it from getting started. So think of how usually when you get really excited and inspired about something, you start to like maybe plan towards it and even start to take action towards it. But once it starts to get a little too real, you might start to back away because of that fear that you're feeling. And if it's not fear, then it's doubt or anxiety or whatever it is. And that's these two cards together. That's what that tells me. It's the Ace of Wands is this thing that's trying to get started, this fire that's trying to catch on. And the Knight of Cups being this heavy water energy that if you sit too long in it, it can douse this fire. So then reversed, it's basically saying to allow this fire to grow by watching the ways in which you, or watching what feelings you are honoring that are working against this thing that you're excited about and getting it started. So again, fear, doubt, anxiety, whatever those things are, give those things space, of course, but understand, start to look for the ways in which these things do stand in the way. And if they don't, then that's not what we're talking about here. You need to start looking for something else. There's something, again, emotionally in your heart space that exists, that you indulge, that you act upon, because nights are all about action. So it's not just something that you give space to, it's something that you actually like, you act based on these feelings. So if it's fear, you sabotage the plan. You're like, okay, I'm gonna get started tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes, and because of that fear, you kind of prioritize something else that has nothing to do with this, and is relevant to something else. If it's doubt, then instead of doing the thing, you go and try to prove to yourself that you can do it, or you go and do more research because you feel like you don't know enough, and you don't do the thing that you're supposed to do. You just put more time preparing for it instead of just doing it. And of course it's good to prepare, but it's kind of like it's kind of like procrastinating. So again, looking at the feelings that you're honoring, the feelings that you're giving space to, that are actively dousing this thing from getting started, this thing that you're excited about. What it'll look like to commit to this energy in order to see it blossom. The Wheel of Fortune asks us to pull back and to look at our place in pretty much any role that we play, in our homes, at work, anywhere, at school, anywhere we interact with people, anywhere we exist. And if possible, to also look at the ways that we impact those spaces, the people there, and vice versa, the way that those places and the people there impact us. So because the Wheel of Fortune, part of understanding that whole, like, looking at the whole picture, is also gaining a different perspective outside of your own. And that's part of the reason, that's part of the medicine of pulling back and seeing the big picture, so that we understand that there is more than our own approach, than our own perspective. And here, what this feels like is, one, that in part of acknowledging the things that you're honoring, there might be things in your environment or people in your environment that A, are trying to fuel this fire, and B, are enabling or supporting this energy of the fear and the doubt. And it might not be as harsh as, like, that people actively, like, kind of pushing you down or belittling your work. It could be that. And if it's that, then that's what we're talking about, acknowledging that exists. But if it's not something so direct, if it's just, you being around people that you don't feel entirely confident expressing yourself honestly about this thing with, whatever the case is, it's, again, being honest about what it is that you're feeling. And the Wheel of Fortune is asking how your environment and what exists in it is influencing both of these energies. And that's why it's a commitment, because that's scary. It is asking a lot to look at our comfort zone, which is our life, our perspective that we live in every day. It is hard to walk outside of that, to exist outside of that. But maybe that's part of, like, fueling this fire, is that you're not going to, this fire can't grow within the confines of your comfort zone. It'll take transcending, breaking out of that comfort zone, pulling back and looking at the big picture, Wheel of Fortune, in order to see this grow. The Wheel of Fortune is Jupiter, and Jupiter rules Sagittarius. And Jupiter is all about expansion. So yeah, it's like, this thing is ready to go. You're ready to go. You have this thing inside of you that's ready to expand, and it's ready to take on kind of like its own shape and life on its own. The thing that's standing in your way is the way that you feel. And again, it's so important to honor how we feel and give those things space. That is an incredible thing that we all need to do. But there is such a thing as overdoing it. Like with everything, there has to be a balance. What I just noticed is that reversed, this guy isn't able to pass through that threshold, and that's kind of that threshold that you're ready to go through now to begin this new thing. But reversed, it's like you're not able to do it because you're hesitant at that threshold, and that hesitation is kind of what I'm picking up on. That feeling that you're honoring. It's like, but what if it's like, but new beginnings, passion, expansion, those things do take an honoring of the fear that you're feeling and doing it anyway. Or if it's not fear, doubt, whatever it is that you're feeling, honor that, but and hold it and carry it, but do it anyway. Keep going. Hold it with you and carry it with you, but go with it. That's part of that expansion as well. Not only the expansion of your perspective, but the expansion of your capacity. Understanding that you are capable of feeling what it is that you're feeling and doing what you need to do, what you want to do anyway. In fact, that might be part of that expansion. That might be part of this new beginning that you're starting is in the past, before this moment, you maybe didn't know what it meant to hold that fear, that doubt, and do the thing that you wanted to do anyway. Where now with this opportunity, it's so big, it's so important, and it's supported by divinity that in this case, that's part of the learning process, part of the growing pain, is being able to hold the paradox, the dynamic energy of, yeah, I feel this way, but I want to do it, so I'm gonna do it. And so that's the blossoming, that's the blessing that comes from this, is the Ace of Cups reversed, where usually an ace reversed would feel like a negative thing. Here, it's an incredible thing. Why? Because we start with the Ace of Wands, and that's the opportunity that's trying to come through for you with this new moon. And what's standing in the way of it is the feelings that you are honoring, the things in your heart space that weigh so much that they stand in the way of this thing expanding. And so if you acknowledge right now the ways in which you honor certain things honor certain feelings that stand in the way of your passions, excitement, this thing that you're trying to get off the ground, standing in the way of that expanding, if you start to do that now and you commit to it, you'll start to that commitment, this work that you're doing over time will expand your perspective so that you can begin to understand how, or rather the things in your environment, the people maybe that are impacting these energies, how those things are impacting how this thing is expanding, or if it's preventing it from expanding, and the things that are impacting, influencing, enabling, supporting these doubts, fears, and these obstacles that we're talking about with the Knight of Cups reversed. And since the obstacle is this reversal of cups, the blossoming is, I feel, with the Ace of Cups reversed, it feels like a release of how the priority that you gave these feelings. I'm visually kind of seeing it like the Ace of Cups reversed feels like this knight leaving the cup behind so that he can go through the threshold. It's leaving behind, and it's not even leaving behind, because you don't just forget a feeling, you don't just leave it behind. It's like, if you're feeling fear and you go through this, it's not like I'm saying you're never going to feel fear again. It's not about that. It's rather that it loses its power, it loses its potency, it loses its weight, and you're able then to proceed as you need to, now that this thing doesn't hold the weight and power over you that it did. I'm also seeing the Ace of Cups reversal as the giving way to the Ace of Wands, where with the we've over-prioritized our feelings. We've over-prioritized the Ace of Cups. It's so much so that it douses this Ace of Wands energy. And with this work that we do, and acknowledging this thing that we're doing, and over-indulging emotional soothing, and in in doing that, seeing gaining new perspectives, understanding how to hold dynamic energies. In doing that, we understand how to make way for both, how to hold and honor these feelings, but also how to do the thing that we want to do. Ace of Cups reversed, like traditionally, and kind of, because Ace of Cups is like good feelings, so then Ace of Cups reversed is like negative feelings, fear, doubt, like we've been talking about. So we have both of them. We have the thing that we want to do, the exciting thing, what we know we have and want to do, and the fear and the doubt and all of those negative feelings. We have both. And the work, the opportunity that's being offered to you is the work that will enable you to hold both. Dynamic energy, it's gaining the perspective of this thing that you've known, the honoring of these feelings and the harsh, the heavy feelings that you're accustomed to, knowing and holding those, but also holding this thing too, this thing that you're excited about. So again, this expansion of capacity for holding what it is that you feel now, what you're used to feeling, again, that doubt, that fear, but then also what it is that you want to do. Holding both things in order to do it. We end with the Two of Swords. And let me drink some water before I continue. I want to just start off by saying that we go from like one, and we talked about how there's like 3 ones because of the Wheel of Fortune. And we end with a 2. So what if all, you commit to this and you gain this lesson, this beautiful, wonderful lesson, and you end up in a place where you can hold and honor everything that you feel and do the things that you want to do anyway. There is this guaranteed progression. Of course, right? Anytime that we do our work, of course, we're going to gain progression. But what it looks like for you, we move from Wands and Cups energy, which is the passion aspect of our lives and the emotional aspect of our lives, and we end in the intellectual, mental realm of things. And what this tells me is that there's like this mental clarity that is available to you after all of this, where having done all of this, it's that the clarity that I'm talking about is the new perspective gained in this expansion, in this pulling back and looking at the whole picture, in holding dynamic energy. That expansion creates a clarity of mind because you're capable of seeing more, basically. The Two of Swords upwards is about stopping, pausing, in order to fully process and contemplate something that deserves to be contemplated and processed. Like this, it indicates something that cannot be taken lightly, that does require for you to stop and really think things through before you move forward. And so reversed, it's a decision being made. It's you understanding you've processed it as much as you can, you've thought it all the way through, and you now have come to a conclusion about how you feel and how you want to proceed. That it's scissors, it feels like okay. Since it's the Santa Muerte deck, and the images in this deck, the ideas of this deck kind of take the ideas of traditional tarot and puts them through a lens of death. These swords always feel to me like the swords of fate. Kind of like in Hercules, the Disney movie, with the fates and their scissors, and when, a person's life is over, they cut. So again, kind of that energy of like something that cannot be taken lightly, like we need to be sure, like that this is something I want to do. And I've always looked at this card, and especially this reversal, as the scissors being put down after the work has been done. We've contemplated everything, kind of like in the context that I was saying with the fates and their scissors. They've cut the tie, they've ended that life, and the work is done, so they put the scissors down. And that's what this looks like to me. Kind of, it's not so much that you're cutting this away. It's not so much that you're done with this and, you know, that's never going to come up again. It's more so that right now, or through this process, it's going to be tumultuous. It's going to be difficult because, again, you are expanding, you're leveling up, you are learning how to do more than you've really ever been asked to do before now. And this, the putting down of the tool, feels like that sigh of relief, that sigh of satisfaction after like a long day of hard work, and you look at what you've done all day and you're like, yes, this is what I've done, and you're satisfied, and you just take a seat and you're just like, I can rest now. That's what this feels like to me. That it's the swords energy, again, feels like that mental clarity gained, that mental progression, that mental increase, because again, we're moving from 1 to 2, so like there's this mental level up that I'm kind of seeing with the Two of Swords. But again, with the imagery, this idea of like the tool being put down, because the work, this specific work, has been done, and you're, before we go and the moon cycle renews and starts a new moon in Sagittarius again, you take this moment of like just contemplation, of thinking, because again, swords, on everything that you've gained and how far you've come on this journey. There's also a connection to the Wheel of Fortune because of the blades part, and again, the expansion, the progression of the mental level up, so that there's that connection. But part of what you're contemplating, part of what you're sitting down at the end of all of this work to kind of sit with, what I don't even know how to word it, but basically how I'm seeing it, and I like totally blue screen there. I see these two cards as you've gotten a taste of this expansion, that at the end, once you've done this, you're like, okay, what else am I not seeing? What more growth is there? Now that you've learned how to hold things that you couldn't hold before, you're like, it feels like you wanting to look at, or being curious about, okay, well, what else can I hold now? What else am I capable of, basically? Progression, moving from 1, beginning, into an energy of 2, keeping it going, wanting it to see it grow, this energy grow, which is a beautiful energy to end up with, because the last quarter, although it's the last quarter, it's a cycle, so it'll begin again. And that's pretty neat, I think, for it to end there. Again, as this beautiful progression from 1 to 2, and kind of indicating the rest of the numbers kind of moving onward. An increase of this Ace of Wands and everything that it can expand into, but not just that, an expansion of this thing that you're learning how to do in honoring or putting a stop to the overindulgence that we're talking about with these Cups cards. And in order to make way for something else that you know you want to honor. I hope this helped. I'll catch you for the next one. Bye. Hello, pile 2, to your reading on what the new moon is creating for you with this Sagittarius energy. And your message is very direct, it is very poetic, and it insists on coming through as such and nothing else. I've tried multiple times to record this reading, and I've tried to implement examples that to better kind of to shape out the reading to help, I guess, from my perspective, help you understand better what I'm kind of seeing from the cards. And each time that I try to do that, I end up at a dead end and I lose myself and I have to start all over again. So what I'm getting from that is that I just have to deliver the message as it's coming through, which again is very poetic with very few examples, very little nuance. It's just meant to be delivered as it's coming through for you to receive it as it's coming through. One thing that I kind of understand from the fact that it's just meant to be received poetically, like as symbolic heavy as it is, with no nuance or examples. What that tells me is that, or one of the things why that might be, is because the circumstances that this is picking up on are so severely different for each and every one of you that picked this pile and are here receiving this message, that any example I might give might then dilute the message that's coming through for you. Like something I might say, an example that I might be giving or try to give might have derailed the thought process you would have been receiving from the message, because of what I said. So again, just gonna deliver it point blank. It might be a little short, but that's kind of what I'm being guided to do. So with the top row, we have what each of the tarot cards mean. So it's kind of like a spread. And it's the moon cycles: new first quarter, full moon last quarter, and the Sagittarius energy at the beginning. And so we start with the Sagittarius energy to talk about what it is that the new moon is creating with the Sagittarius energy, the opportunity that's being created for you right now that you can take advantage of to see it blossom into a blessing. The new moon energy here answers the question of what you can do right now to best take advantage of this opportunity, again, in order to see it blossom. First quarter answers the question of what it'll look like to commit to this energy, what the long haul is going to look like in order to see this blossoming. The full moon is the blossoming itself. And the last quarter answers the question of what this energy is kind of shaping itself into, breaking down into, in order to renew itself, basically. And so, to begin, what the new moon in Sagittarius is creating for you, it's you being enabled to do something you were not able to do in the past. This new moon either is providing, a new mentality, an answer, confidence, something that makes you feel empowered to go out and get something. We start with the Knight of Swords on a horse wielding a sword. Underneath the imagery of, I know it's Chiron, but because I've watched Moonlight, I cannot help but call him Chiron. So he's wielding a bow and arrow. So he's a centaur, which again, that imagery of like horse and weapons, and that those themes, horses and weapons, it's like riding into battle. And that's completely supported by the next card in the spread, just as she's also wielding a sword. And I'll get to that in a second. But the fact that we have all of this imagery of wielding a weapon here at the beginning, that's where I'm getting that idea of the new moon giving you this weapon, giving you something to wield that enables you to do this thing that you've been wanting to do that you were not able to do in the past. And it could have been because you needed to work up to this point in order to succeed in this thing that you're now going to set out to do. Whatever the case is, there's something going on right now. And if you take advantage of it, it will kind of lead you to success. Against what? To skip to the full moon, to the blossoming itself, we have the devil reversed. The devil is the archetype, in tarot is the archetype for, I mean, even outside of tarot, the devil is an archetype for all evil, for the ultimate enemy. And so the ultimate enemy reversed, it's the ultimate enemy defeated. I don't really get the energy that this is a person. Why I say that is because we have no pentacles cards. We have majors, we have swords, cups, wands, no pentacles, nothing to anchor this energy into the material realm. So all of this definitely strikes as something internal, which is why I kind of said earlier, this might be like a new mentality, a new mindset. That's just one example. Again, I'm not really being given too many examples. I'm just trying to deliver the message the way it's coming through, with little else, because again, anytime I try to, it all derails. So we start again with you being given the horse, the weapon, the tools necessary, the key to succeed with this defeat of this great enemy, this great evil. And I'll elaborate on what that might be later. But before we get to that, what you can do right now to take advantage of these things that the new moon is creating for you, giving you. Justice gives me a whole lot of messages. On the one hand, it's about acting righteously, acting justly. It's about not taking advantage of what you are being given. It's about honoring it, being honorable with it, noble with it even. Because there's a recognition of where it's coming from. It's a blessing, it's an opportunity, and one that you didn't have before. And so in honoring where it comes from, or by honoring, you can honor where it's coming from by not abusing it, basically. So that's one of the things that justice is kind of telling me. You basically acting right with this opportunity, not misusing it. Justice is also gives me this kind of, if you play video games, you know how in some video games your decisions affect the outcome, so you have to be careful with what you do. That's one of the things that justice is hitting as. Understanding that at this early stage in your story, your decisions will impact what happens later. It's being emphasized with that message that it is not about you sitting down and trying to determine what can I do to get the best outcome. That's not what it's about. It's more so about that first message I was getting about you just acting righteously, justly. And if that kind of doesn't make sense, it's kind of like, because justice outside of tarot, it's the right thing, right? Justice is the right thing. And so in the context of this reading, that's kind of what it could be. You kind of honoring what you understand is the right thing. Taking this opportunity that the new moon is creating for you, and what do you do with it? Well, whatever you know is right internally, what you feel guided internally to do, because it's the right thing. Justice, the right thing. So again, message A, act right, act justly, because that's going to impact what happens later. Message B, being guided by what you know is right. So what can you do right now to take advantage of this energy? Again, act righteously, act justly, honor what you know is right, because it's going to impact what happens later, but also because that's what's being said. That's kind of how it's supposed to be worded. It's like that's how you sharpen this weapon that you have been given, by practicing honoring the right thing. If you're not used to doing that, if you've only just started to do that, putting that into practice sharpens that weapon. And so that's one of the things that's kind of coming through with justice. What you can do right now to take advantage, put it into practice. do it in a way that you know is right. So, okay, that's what you can do right now. What it'll look like to commit to this energy, to take what you're doing here with justice and with what you've been given, remembering, digging deep and acknowledging, grasping why it is that you're doing all of this in the first place. If you're being given a weapon and a horse and the tools to succeed, it's because at some point you set out to succeed against this thing. And again, before this point, you didn't have the tools necessary for it. Now that you do, don't get carried away with the elation of, this success that's feeling guaranteed. Don't get carried away with, okay, I have everything I need, let's just go. No, there's a call to remember what started all of this in the first place, because that's also asking to be honored. It's smack in the middle. It's what's necessary before we face the great enemy. It's not just about what we're being given by divinity, and it's not just about us honoring that, acting right with it. Beyond that, it's also about honoring the reasons for why we're doing all of this in the first place. And in doing these three things, in accepting what we are being given, in wielding it and sharpening it, and in wielding those things in the name of something, in honor of something, not just because we want to win, but remembering why it is that we're doing this in the first place. Then and only then is this enemy defeated. And it doesn't feel to me like there's this, you have the 3 keys and now you can go defeat the big bad. It's rather like these are the 3 things. Okay, let me put it this way. Here he's reversed. But the devil's power might have come from you not being aware of why it is that you're doing this in the first place. You kind of not having a full grasp of that. And you not having a reason to act righteous, or not having that weapon to wield yet, a reason to honor what you know is right. And lastly, part of that power might have come from you being disempowered, you not having the necessary things to be empowered. And with these things now granted to you by divinity and through your own work, now that you have gained these things, you've leveled up, in essence. Now the devil is defeated. It's not so much that you need these three weapons, these 3 things to go and face the devil. It's more so that in you gaining these things, you cut off its power supply and lay it defeated. And that's the blossoming. That's the blessing that's waiting for you. A breaking of chains, because I always regard the devil reversed as a breaking of chains, as a liberation, therefore, of these things, or this thing that oppressed you, that you have been moving against for a long time, but that you are only now being given the opportunity to move towards success against it. And so this is like this is big picture stuff, because it's a whole moon cycle. It's not just the new moon, it takes it all the way to the full moon. It's a full cycle. So it's been a long time coming, and you still got work to do, but once the work is done, it's done, it's defeated, and you get to progress into a new phase. The 2 of Wands, I love that he's here at the end looking back at all of this process, everything that he's been through, and he's writing it down. He's got a globe and the map. He's charting his course for the future, but doing so by honoring where he's come from. He's not trying to get away from these things and forget all about it. No, he's recognizing how the position he's in here, the position available to him because of this success, exactly, he's only gained this position because of this success, because of the work that and I'm using him because this is a masculine presenting figure, but because you've put in the work, you've gained this position, because you've honored what you're being given, you've wielded it in a righteous way, and you've grasped and honored why it is that you're doing it in the first place. In doing that, you will gain access to this place where it's like, okay, now that I've done that, what's next? How can I take this lesson, this whole experience, and take it with me into the future so that I can then wield that with any problems that come into the future? What all of this is basically going to renew into is wisdom, is knowledge of how to maneuver through the next big thing that you see oppresses, maybe not you, but other people. And if it is you, then now you know what to do. Waiting for that golden opportunity, waiting for divinity to provide what it is that you need, and taking advantage of it by wielding it, putting it into practice, doing what's right, what you know is right, and by always remembering why it is that you're doing what it is that you're doing. I hope that helped. Again, super poetic. I tried to give examples and it just all kind of got shot in the face. So this is how it's being asked to be delivered. No more, no less. I really do hope it helped. I'll catch you for the next one. Bye. Hey there, pile 3. Now, if you didn't notice, I was not able to record the preparation of your pile, of your spread, and I just didn't realize I wasn't recording until I was about 10 minutes in, or I don't even know how long I'd been talking to myself, basically, before I realized that I never hit record. And so here we are. The cards are already laid out for you. To explain what the spread is, what this reading is, the top row basically explains that here at the first card is Sagittarius, the energy that the new moon is currently in, answering the question of what the new moon is creating for you with the Sagittarius energy. The new moon phase here answering the question of what you can do right now to take advantage of this energy to see it blossom into a blessing. The first quarter answering the question of what it'll look like for you to commit to this energy in order to see it blossom into a blessing. The full moon is the blessing itself. And the last quarter answers the question of what this energy is breaking down into, recycling itself into, in order to basically renew itself for the new cycle. In essence, kind of just what comes after all of this. And before I get into your reading, I do want to just say this is a heavy reading. You've got all reversals. And what that tells me is that there's a lot that is being presented to you by divinity for you to become aware of. And when there is so much that we're given to be aware of, it can be kind of overwhelming, overstimulating. And this isn't, I was going to say this isn't part of a reading, but yes, it is. I was just going to say like, oh, this is just from me to you because I've gone through this process, but no, it is embedded in your reading. Take it slow. It's not about getting to the good parts, the better days as fast as you can. It's about getting there in a way that once you're there, you can stay there. It's not just a 3-day vacation, it's a residency there. And in order to gain residency in a place like that, it's about taking your time, doing it the right way. Now, to answer the question of what the new moon is creating for you with the Sagittarius energy, the 6 of Wands reversed. And the 6 of Wands upwards is traditionally a card of victory. I mean, there she is flaunting her flag. People are looking at her. She commands attention. And so reversed, it's that negated, that victory now turned into a defeat. And defeat as the answer to what the new moon is creating for us isn't really something we want to hear. I don't. But if there's any comfort in it for you, this defeat, this shortcoming, this failure, this thing that you're not getting or achieving, it is divinely sanctioned. And one of my favorite sayings that I've heard from other tarot readers is rejection is divine protection. And I know that to be true. So that's what the new moon is creating for you. It's a defeat. And if it's not like a defeat in your reality, like, you know, you're not getting a promotion or you're not getting a job, or, you know, someone kind of hurting you or something like that. If it's not something like that, it might very well be an acknowledgement of a defeat. So one example could be like what you realizing years later, after it doesn't even matter anymore, that someone had been flirting with you, someone really attractive that you like actually liked, but you were so caught up in whatever you were caught up that you missed it entirely. And now all this time later, now that you've developed enough and you can see things clearly, you're like, wait a second, I messed up, I failed, that was a defeat. It could be something like that, where it's not a defeat that happens in the present, it might be an awareness of it. Or if not an awareness of something in the past, it could just be an awareness of something within you that you're starting to understand is a shortcoming or a failure. And I want to be very careful, and one of the things that's being specified is that it's not about you ragging on yourself and this isn't insecurity. This defeat, this recognition of what, if that's what this is, a recognition of an internal defeat or failure or whatever, this opportunity is only coming when you're ready to look at that not as like this fatal flaw, but as an opportunity for growth, because it's something that you can now work on. And that's specifically what it is. This, when it's an opportunity created for us by divinity, it's because it's meant to make us grow. So again, it's defeat, but it's not a bad thing. It's a defeat that you can recognize, whether now or later or in some way, that there is something to be gained from it. Again, whether it's like protection, like rejection is divine protection, or again, something for you to now work on. The rest of the reading is just as heavy, so bear with me. The new moon energy, answering the question of what you can do right now to take advantage of this opportunity, is to dive into the heavy feelings attached to that defeat, to this shortcoming. The Queen of Cups reversed. In this deck, all of the court cards are gender flipped. So the queens are actually kings, princes are pages, and princesses are the knights, but we don't see them here. And kings would be like the queen energy. So the Queen of Cups here is the King of Cups energy reversed. And the King of Cups is a master of the emotional realm, is in charge of his heart space, of their heart space. Reversed, then, it's a lack of that control. And it's not even control. It's not, the King of Cups isn't someone who has complete control over their emotions, because that's not what it's about. It's rather a full understanding of how to maneuver through those emotions as they come. It's King of Cups, king, like, you know, master of like water, master of the ocean, having sea legs. It's the capacity to maneuver through that storm. And so reversed, it's not, I kind of see the captain of a ship abandoning the place where they steer, and he just lets the ship be tossed by the storm. And that might sound counterintuitive. That might sound, catastrophic, like self-sabotage. But the thing is that it's this huge energy in response to this defeat. That's what gives me this idea that it needs to be honored. It demands space. It requires space. If this is something that you try to repress, if this is something that you try to brush off, it is something that's going to linger and prevent you from seeing things clearly later on, the way that you are, like, the clarity that there is to be gained from all of this, the lesson, the power that's meant to be gained from all of this heavy energy, is all negated if you don't give yourself the space to feel whatever it is that you're feeling about all of this right now. And it's not just that it's only just right now. It's that you're being asked right now to learn how to just dive in, how to not try to maneuver yourself as effectively, as peacefully as possible. It's just about honoring what it is that you're feeling now. If you are someone who has put a lot of work into emotional regulation, either, for clinical reasons, mental health reasons, I am obviously not telling you to throw that out the window. That's not what I'm saying. Obviously that is never advisable. What this energy is saying is that there is something that needs to be felt about this. And that in giving that space and learning how to give that space, that's what's going to gain you the experience necessary to proceed with this energy. It's okay if, you can't do this right now. If it's not right now, right now, timing in any tarot reading is relative, because time is a construct, of course. When we're answering the question of right now in this tarot reading, it's just the next step. It's what to do with what you have. When I'm saying right now, it doesn't mean that this has an expiration date, and if you don't take advantage of it right now, it's going to expire and you can never do it again. No, it's rather, this is just the next step. Take as long as you need to with that next step. The rest of this will follow as it needs to. You are divinely guided and sanctioned. This is all divinely handed to you. So it's not going to just dissipate because you're not ready for it. Okay? Let me just put that right there. Take your time with this process as long as you need to, but that's part of what this whole lesson is. It's about you learning what it means for you specifically to honor the big things. And if for you have a struggle attached to feeling those big things, then that is part of your journey. Carrying that while also understanding that that doesn't negate you from doing that work. It's just that you have to figure out how to do that work given your circumstance. To take that energy and commit to it and watch it grow into something. The Page of Wands reversed. The Page of Wands upwards is a very courageous character, willing to go into the wilderness armed with nothing but their wand. And why they feel so encouraged to do that, to face the unknown with nothing more than their wand, is because they understand that their wand, their magic, their energy, it's all that they need. It provides anything they'll ever need. It's faith. What this card tells me, reversed, and answering the question of what it'll look like to commit to this, there is this, oh God, this is so heavy to deliver, but there's a lack of hope attached to this process. If you're shying away from this because you're starting to recognize that if you are going to not even accept this defeat, because you have no choice in the matter, but if you're going to do the work of honoring that defeat, this shortcoming, in the way that you're being guided to, by diving into that heavy energy and learning how to maneuver through it as best as you can, part of that is acknowledging that is heavy. That will kind of deprive you of hope. And if not hope, then just like your light, your motivation to do things. Kind of what I see this energy as is, as your life stands now before this defeat, or as it stood before this defeat, this acceptance and all of this work, you have maybe built your life up to a standard or a base that was satisfying for you. And it enabled you to face what it was that you were facing, even just armed with a wand, even just armed, it might have not been everything that you wanted. It's just a page energy. It's not anything beyond that, but it was good enough for you. It was what you wanted. And now that you're being asked to accept this shortcoming, now that you're being asked to face and dive into all that heavy energy, with that acceptance comes the acceptance that what it is that you've built for yourself, where it is that you're at now, isn't providing for you what it is that you thought it was. And if it was, then it is no longer able to provide for you what you now need. And that is heavy. That's a lot to ask, especially when we know that it's coming up. Like, it's heavy of divinity to ask us to accept our defeats, to dive into the heavy work of it, and to accept the hopelessness. That's a lot. But it's not so much that divinity is asking this of us. It's more so that they're letting you know these are the markers. This is how you'll know you're on the right path to this divine clarity. Because that's what the moon reversed is. It's all illusion shattered, and you finally being able to see past all facades, straight to the heart of things, and see it clear as day. Moon, nighttime, reversed. Nighttime, dissipated. Day, full daytime, full daylight. So a lot of hopeless energy, but that hopelessness, that deprivation, that absence, that it's not even that. I almost want to say it's like the hope being sucked out of your current circumstance, but that only needs to happen so that all of this positivity, all of this energy that you've kind of been deprived of can now start to move into this new phase of life. That can only come through once you see things clearly. And that clarity can only come once you've shattered the illusions that you have maintained thus far. And in order to shatter those illusions, it's about accepting that those illusions are just that. They're not what you thought they were. They're not the reality. They're not the stability that you thought it was. It is just an illusion that you were kind of grasping onto. And once you do that, once you're able to see this thing clearly, it's like, oh shit, okay. Now that I see that all of that was a shortcoming, and I've at this point, I've learned how to maneuver through all of this heavy energy, and because I've learned how to maneuver through this acceptance and shortcoming and failings and stuff, I applied that to this hopelessness that I'm feeling of accepting that everything I thought I had built for myself is kind of just an illusion. It isn't the stability that I thought it was. The moon reversed feels like a moon set, the night ending again, the night dissipating, and so it gives space for the day to come through, for the sun to rise. And the Page of Cups reversed as not only the answer to what comes after, but also as like a symmetrical answer to the Page of Wands on the other side of the moon. It feels poetic. It doesn't feel like a negative reversal. Not like these ones feel. Instead, what it feels like is I want to call it a rebirth, but it's not that. Here with this energy where you had to see the illusions for what they were, and that entailed this heavy energy with the Queen of Cups here. Once that illusion is shattered, all of this weight is demoted down to a page size. It goes from a heavy thing where once this clarity is founded, once this clarity is found, then it shrinks. And let me put it this way. We have all of these minors, and once you level up into this major energy of major clarity, divine clarity, when you level up, this heavy energy, this heavy weight in the heart space levels down. It shrinks. It demotes. You get bigger and that gets smaller. It becomes more manageable. That's what I'm seeing the Page of Cups reversed as here at the end. there are so many ways to interpret the Page of Cups reversed alone. I am not seeing any of those interpretations here. The symmetry of it being on the other side, that we have the from king down to page, because again, the queen is king in this deck. That's what it feels like to me. There's also, because in this deck, in all moon cards, there's two dynamic energies that are kind of meeting. And that also supports this idea of like the two pages kind of like being combined. This hopelessness, this illusion shattered, now being internalized into the heart space, but it now being transformed because you've transformed it to something bigger. It's now this heavy heart space energy is then transformed into something smaller, more manageable. So, really heavy stuff. And let me just take a moment to send you a virtual hug. And you know what? Actually, because this is so heavy, and like, I can't just leave you with this. Like, this is just, even though you're being led towards something so beautiful, divine clarity, and even though all of this is to your benefit, right? Because it's about you not only seeing but accepting that where you're at, it's not what you want. And not only that, having the bravery to go beyond that. And because once you've transformed and this is kind of dethroned, so to speak, I see that as relief. And so, okay, given that this is such a heavy energy, I do want to just take a second, and I'm only doing this for you, pile 3. I have not done this for any of the other piles. I'm gonna ask Lenormand, or with the Lenormand cards, for a message of comfort for you. I'm just gonna get into it. Let's just do it. I love Lenormand because it speaks in full sentences. Commit to communicating with those you're loyal to, or those loyal to you. Lots of communication. I mean, ring in any Lenormand deck is not so much about communication. I mean, she's talking on the phone, but ring is about commitment. It's like usually depicted as an actual ring, like an engagement ring. So contract, something that you get into with someone else. But here it's taking on like communication, like a ring, like giving someone a ring, like on the phone. And letters, obviously, also about communication. Dog, friendship. Rely on your friendships. Rely on the people that you can talk to. Commit to those people. Commit to the energies that feel good, that provide sanctuary, that provide comfort through this heavy energy. You're going to have to rely on those people, those things, those avenues. Because, yeah, all of this that you're being asked to do, facing the harshness of your reality, and part of that is like accepting, that's that shortcoming that we're talking about. It's you accepting that you did accept all of this for however long you've been accepting it. And if you take, like, it's not that you can't do it alone. You're remarkable. But rely on those around you. If you don't know how to do that, if like you struggle to reach out to people, Hi, same. But believe me, people want to be there for you. And if they don't, find better people. Co-create with the universe. Don't just accept, you know, there's no one in my life for me. Well, are you putting yourself out there? Co-create with the universe. Don't just sit and pray for something. Sit and pray and then put action so that the universe can respond to, create the experiences so that the universe can like put things in front of you. Like you can't just sit at home and wait for things to kind of happen. Like co-creation. You have to provide just as much energy as you're asking the universe to give you. I don't know who that's for, but I'm just going to leave it there, pile 3. I hope that this helped. Godspeed, my friend. I will catch you for the next one. Bye.